As you all know, the Smogon Champions League has finally come to an ending. We have gotten our winner, and I'm pretty sure in yesterday's video I said who it was, but today, in case you didn't watch yesterday's video, and I know some of y'all didn't, I'm gonna pretend like I didn't, and I'm gonna keep it a little bit ambiguous which of these NU users got a trophy. I'll hype it all up through this video, you know, oh, who's gonna do it, who's gonna do it? I think that's just more fun, but of course, before we get into it, a little reminder to go subscribe if you're not already subscribed. We've got a week left, just about, a little less actually. Hit 6K before the end of the year. Obviously, I can't do it without y'all's help, so hey, just go subscribe, man. It's free. It takes 2 seconds of your day. I think it's pretty cool. So, game 1, we got Eternally versus Axertix. Of course, if you've been paying attention to just, you know, the weekly recaps that we had been doing of this, then you're going to know. Eternally had been having a very dominant tournament. I believe he was like 6-3 coming into this week, 7-2. He was very, very solidly at the top of the standings. Axertix had had some struggles. At one point, I believe he had been benched to help support as opposed to play for a little bit, and then they freed him back in like week 8 or 9, and he started playing again. But in this game, Eternaly's team looking quite spicy into what Axertix has, and it's because of this Gudra set that he ends up revealing. It actually ends up being an Iron Press set, which, you know, maybe not the most standard of Gudras, but it does have a pretty decent outlook, particularly since he ran Draco Meteor on it. You start thinking about how that particular variant of Iron Press looks in Axertix's team, and it's a lot better than maybe some of the other options you have, where if you go like Dragon Pulse, because you just don't do enough damage to some mons, or even if you go like, try to think of some of the other stuff, you could do like sub Iron Press, Body Press, and then like Dragon Tail even. You actually have that move that does a lot more damage, gives you a nice option versus some of the maybe frailer fight resistant material. I mean, at the time especially, you had like Salazzle, for example. This was something that probably could pivot into your Iron Defense or even into your Body Press and try and do something from there. Not so much the Body Press because boosted, it's still gonna hurt, but you get the idea. And of course, this is a previous meta, there's a standard stare down of the electrodes as they vibrate in unison. Nice little standard Copper Raja. Actually, think of Sandaconda out of Axertix, and since it's alongside the Raj, you can, you know, infer it's going to be a Coil Conda as well, which potentially versus Eternally seem actually kind of strong. So we'll see if it ever gets a turn to set up as we play this game. Of course, the Orb led with, because why not? I mean, it beats the Volt Blocker. It can Volt Switch on anything else. And Eternally just goes into Coilfish, and these are free spikes. Altaria could come out immediately. You don't really love bringing out Altaria if you're Axertix, because it's simply a mon that seeds all the momentum in the world, and I'm going to do this just to make sure the spikes actually show on the screen. But you don't really like going Altaria, especially because this Coilfish reveals Taunt later, so can you actually ever defog? Who knows? So Poros comes in, because it's the best absorber of knock that a turn has. You know, it kind of sucks to lose your boots, but it's not the end of the world. You could always rely on forcing Altaria even to defog if you really felt like you needed. Because Eternally, you're going to see here, he can taunt the ult. But for the rest of the game, he can rely on these spikes being very, very impactful. They're going to help pressure the Mabostiff, they're going to pressure the Conda, they're going to pressure the Raj. The Mabostiff it's not too relevant for. But of course, getting rid of Conda is very nice because, well, looks like it could honestly sweep a turn's team. Also, one of the few roadblocks to a bulk up Poros sweep, so you do kind of want to get rid of that. Now, Eternally goes Gudra versus Electrode. You see the lefties, you know it's Iron Press. And Axertix reveals Terra Blast, Fairy H-Trode. Not the most common of options for it to run at the time. You usually saw Foul Play, Volt Switch, Leaf Storm, and like T-Wave. The most common 4 moves. Forces Eternally to actually have to burn his Terra as well. Thankfully for him, though, with this Gudra, he does carry the Draco on deck. Gets rid of Altaria. And now, if you look at Eternaly's team, there is a certain someone that has become very, very freed up by this. That Poros, I mean, it's pretty hard to stop now, right? Because the Sandaconda is going to be super low, because it took the rocks. All of these mods just fold over to stab moves. And it's a Lazzle. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just not a threat. And then there's me! Subscribe to me. Anyhow, Gligar comes out, takes the Fire Blast pretty well. It's some mixed defensive Gligar set. And forces out the Mabostiff. You can tell it's mixed defensive because even the Mabostiff does absolutely nothing at all. Very, very beautifully done by yours truly. I get a little bit of chip off on the Mabostiff after killing the Lazzle, and at this point it is very over. The Flame Charge crit there doesn't really matter. The Mabostiff was going to have to crunch again anyway. And now everything is just in KO range. Get a little bop bop there. Get a little bop bop there, and a little bit of bop bop. Eternally does beat Axurtix, and thankfully, his team also won the week. So Eternally has made it to finals, and of course, if you're aware of Smogon lore, you know Eternally has not won a trophy yet. He had won in U Circuit a while ago, so he's got one of those little ribbons, but he doesn't have the Team Tour trophy. Can he finally do it? I don't know. Maybe. Now we get Danny versus Avarice. And this game also has a little bit of lore, because Danny actually approached me for a little bit of help deciding on some of his move slots before the game. And I gotta be honest, I absolutely cooked with them. I mean, some might say there's never been a more impressive cooking. Well, let me let y'all in a little secret. I can leak this now, that this team is never getting used again. He asked me about Psychic versus, I forget what the other move was on Florges. I think it was Psychic versus CM. And I said, you know what? I think Avarice is I think Avarice is gonna HO. This was the impetus for all of the things I said. It's like, I think Avarice is gonna HO. Go Psychic on the Florges. You know, CM ain't beating no damn HO. And I'm thinking of some Lazzles coming out. You know, we looked at the scout. There's a decent amount of Lazzles. I said, you know what? Riddle me this, riddle me that. Yes, Lazzle's coming back. That is that. But yeah, I hit him up with that. He said, you know, are SD Hisuian Sneasel or Choice Scarf Poros? And I said, damn, I ain't running a team with the Hisuian Sneasel's my fastball. Give me Scarf Poros. And look at it here. Check, you know, not the greatest for revenge killing, obviously, this game, because you let a lot of stuff in for free. Point being instead that it's just better into HO to have something above 361 speed as your fast mod. And then the last change was T-Spike versus Haze on Weezing, and of course I said Haze. Because, you know, it's just always nice to have that as an option to fall back on. And then it just kind of came with the Psychic Florges suggestion, where it's like, you've got a lot of different T-Spike absorbers that were running around in NU, or even just mods that didn't care about the T-Spike. Hey, T-Spikes are always good to consider, because they can auto-win some matchups very, very hard. They could also be dead weight in some matchups, and this is one of those matchups where you look at it and go, not that great. Not even that bad still, because you're looking at a whole bunch of mons that don't run boots, but there is still the Lazzle to absorb, and inconveniently for Weezing, Salazzle is one of the best exploiters of it. So, with all that said, Danny Smash, let's get into this. Frostlass is always being led with, so of course you lead them on that can 2-tap and outspeed. Danny just goes for Flare Blitz, the Spike is going to come out, or the Icy Wind. And you go for Icy Wind because you want a little bit of extra chip, but this also lets you slow down the Tauros, so you get some damage, in addition to getting up a Spike. So it's just a way to min-max. Now, there's the risk of you missing Icy Wind, of course, when you do that, but simply don't miss. Now, this play definitely shocked me. As Avarice goes for Fillet Away, as Bombardier was the switch-in from Danny, and Avarice just lets this Sucker Punch. Now, I think part of it is you don't necessarily have a great counter play anyway, but I expected at least a Terra there, like whether you Terra Water or Terra like Fairy Fighting, etc. I don't know, maybe it was Terra Psychic instead? Because I think you have to burn your Terra there. Bombardier coming up, to me at least, screamed that it had Sucker. And Avarice unfortunately taunts on a U-turn. Probably predicted Parting Shot instead or something, or just simply the hard switch in. Like Gligar. But then you guys Revenge Go by the EQ. And then the Hoopla has to take a little bit of extra chip, which isn't as important. It's going to be a Custap set on HO. And then Bombardier obviously just outspeeds. And Avarice, of course, still holding their Terra for next game. Very unfortunate. You cannot use 2 Terras if you don't use Terra the previous. And here's where we see that Haze, though, coming in. As the Hariyama goes for its Belly Drum here. Weezing eats that knock just barely. able to get off a haze because, yeah, you didn't, there's a very good chance that this Yama was gonna win. Maybe not still, but hey. Haze away the boost. Now Glass can come and go for that Terra Fire. Not weak to Drain Punch anymore. And at this point, it is elementary, my dear Watson. He's gonna high horsepower 3 times. You're gonna see again bop. There's a little bop right there, and there's a little bop at the end. Fired. Yeah, unfortunate Glass Shear was fired. And then the Glider comes out, and you see this one takes like 0. Is what it is. And Avarice says GG, because why would you let your Salazzle take that damage at the end too? You may as well keep your Salazzle around for next game too. This is how you build better bonds with your Pokemon. Don't let them get KO'd when there's no reason to. Oh, I love how the music reset right as we get to the next battle. So, Danny versus Eternally. Literally too. This matchup's quite funny because this is like the old guard of NU versus the new guard. Of course, Eternally, ORAS player, been around the block for years. You know, he's getting close to retirement, you think, with every passing day. Danny, new kid on the block, and he's not even that new at this point. He's been around for years. But, you know, we still call him one of the NU Zoomers. He's relatively young. And both players, of course, never won a trophy before. I was happy with either. Of course, I had to pull for my Cotiel, though. And I had to pull for my Cotiel despite the music on Altaria, so you know this was really hard. Thankfully, it was made easy because Danny brought the most uninspired build I think I've seen him use this tournament. Man, well, Simi's team was kind of... Simi's team was a little just too boring as well, but you know what? Chansey Lug and the meta after? Come on, man. So we see the Chansey Lug return, and I honestly theory-crafted Avalugg a little bit and thought it would still be decent in this meta. The idea being that, well, hazard control is kind of doo-doo, and Avalugg has the niche of checking Snorlax. I'm speaking as, you know, this meta with the lax right here. I thought Iron Press, Rapid Spin, Recover sounded like, okay, yes, you're hard-walled by ghosts. But you can't get everything you want. And being able to counter setup versus Snorlax seemed like a good idea. So I think that's... I was going to say that's part of it. No, it's Earthquake Avalugg on his team. He's got the Chansey Lug, so he's going to try to check a lot of stuff there. And thankfully, some of the mons that we did unban do offer a little bit defensively that you actually, like, appreciate. So, like, Brute Bonnet, for example. One of the biggest issues for Chansey Lug is how basically anything with Psyshock can murk that core. But now you got the Brute, and the Brute helps offset that. And then you got just nice Inteleon, nice Salazzle, double Lizard core, very, very well-known core in Sword and Shield in you. These two are going to be very impactful this game too, at least from preview you'd expect them to be, because one of them should be able to get through that Snorlax. And then Palisand to hold the team together. Danny shows that he's a chilling water set at some point, and generally speaking, that'll beat Snorlax. Unfortunately for Nathaniel, this Snorlax is simply a little bit different, and you're gonna see what is meant by that. It's a little bit of a toxic carry job, but let me cook. Anyhow, Eternaly's team, just, I mean, I'm gonna be honest, these are 6 Pokemon I would never expect to see on the same build. And some of the sets revealed are pretty interesting, so let's get into this, man. Eternally leads off the Slash versus the Palo here. You can always just rock up here and then switch into like Alt or Snorlax here. It is very, very safe. And you may as well get rocks up early, you know? So Alt comes out, misses a Fire Spin. This Altaria basically does nothing the entire game, which I think speaks volumes about how bad that Mon is, by the way. He gets the next play right, though, brings in the Croak, and this right here, this seemingly inconsequential poison, kind of annoying, but, you know, you deal with it if you're Danny. This actually ends up just determining, like, the entire game. So Alt comes back out, once again, tries to trap the Palisand, or to get some chip on the Inteleon. Misses, which, you know, it sucks you missed 2 in a row, because you could have gotten, like, 35% or something extra damage. But now Lax comes out. And this is where you see the impact. I don't know if it's here, actually. Is it here? Not yet. Not yet. Later. Right, we go Klefki first. And this is where we see that Eternally is loaded up the Demon Klefki. Eternally said, I do not need spikes on this build. Why would I run spikes? I don't even have Defog. I was going to say, nah, he has Rapid Spin. We're fine. But he goes for the Iron Defense versus the Avalugg. He's going to get a little bit of chip here. I'm going to be honest, we're just skipping through some of these turns, because this is just Eternally draining, kissing an Avalugg for a bit. He tries to call mine there after the Recover's forced, and of course now we switch. In order to let the chance to get a para off, or even, chip away at keys a little bit. This right here. This is where we start seeing how impactful that poison was. Because the Avalugg is not body press, or even curse. It is just earthquake, rapid spin recover, and icicle crash. And yeah, we see the anti-Snorlax tech here. The problem is, and why it doesn't work in this battle, you are poisoned. The whole purpose of chilling water, otherwise, is that you just do more. Why am I saying you do more? You have more chilling waters, you have curses, so it can't actually set up. The problem is you got poisoned turn 5 by Croak, so it's not actually as clear. There's very much losing chances for Palisade. He actually ends up switching it to Bonnet, because now Danny has to reevaluate his entire game plan versus Lax. So he gets the Spore off. He's an Italian, unfortunately does U-turn here instead of snipe shotting. Predicting Croak to switch in, of course. He gets Palisade back, and yeah, you can chilling water or shore up, but, this is +2 now. This crunch hurts. A little bit different than usual. And again, you're just seeing, because of this poison, this mod can't actually beat Lax at all. So he's just gonna keep shore upping, because, you could stall for a helmet chip, but it ain't really that good. And yeah, of course, because I'm nicknamed after the Snorlax, I gotta call Eternally out a little bit. Brubonic comes back up. We're gonna Spore once again. Because, well, why not? you have to try and play around the Lax somehow. This is basically the only way. And if you could sleep it, like, say the Snorlax didn't wake up immediately, Inteleon breaking past it was probably the win con you had. Unfortunately, it wakes up pretty quickly, and Inteleon, this is like a great showing of how crit Inteleon can be kind of mediocre, right? Where it doesn't get those crits, and then the damage output is just very, very lackluster. But, Danny forced to Terra with the Bonnet. Also, maybe look for defense drops if you can get them. Quick para is pretty bad because you risk getting fully paralyzed. I don't think it ends up mattering this game. And once again, Spores the Lax. This time, Eternally switches because he decides, hey, maybe. Okay, it actually did matter. Crunch definitely one-shot Sandslash. This time he does switch out because he's like, I don't really want to risk bad sleep. Or maybe somehow I'm beat down. So, Avalugg, Crash predicting the Missy. Then we get the double into Palo, which is very, very good here because he can actually shore up. So, now Palisand is healthy again. Unfortunately, Lax has woken up. So, I honestly think if Lax didn't wake up that turn, maybe Palisand could have stalled it out again. Because unfortunately, anytime this Lax is going to start being able to get attack boosts of any kind, it's just guaranteed to break Palo. So instead, we see Danny just spam Chilling Water, which is doing a whole 6%, just to make sure that it doesn't keep getting attack boosts. The problem is, it's always getting 1, and 1's all it needs. It doesn't even really need 1 at this point. It just needs to not be able to get KO'd by Brute Bonnet. Like, in a way, the defense boost is more valuable. So Eternally eventually KOs the Palisand. As the Bonnet comes out, he once again is switching because he wants to, respect the threat of the Brute. There is still a chance that Brute Bonnet could do something. Like, with a crit, maybe it breaks Snorlax and you have to worry about Salazzle. There are still losing odds. So he's playing it very, very safely. Switching into Keys there, and then into Mismagius. As Eternally forces the Lazzle out with the threat of, I guess, Scarf Missy. So Brute Bonnet comes in, eats up that Shadow Ball with ease, goes for a Sucker. Just, why would you let Mismagius pick you off from there, And Altaria comes out, and here's where we finally see Altaria do something. He trapped the Lazzle, guys! Yay! And then it almost dies in one to Sludge Bomb. It has Ice Beam. Look, the Altaria would have looked more useful had it landed some Fire Spins on Inteleon. Right, it would have just done more damage this battle. But that is so sad. Did we see Psyshock revealed on Mismagius? Which I gotta be honest, when I saw Psyshock, I was kind of like, damn, why the hell are we running that? Of course, the answer, Magical Lazzle, but still, it just looks very, very funny. But again, we see Bonnet try to Sucker Punch. It's not gonna ever happen. We see Keys try to set up. It's never gonna happen. And unfortunately, Lax has been given a free switch. At this point in the game, it was pretty over. Brute Bonnet, I don't even think outspeeds, depending on EVs. If he's max speed, he would, with the Para still on him. But if he was, like, bulkier, then you start having to ask some questions then. And of course here again, you see that Avila can't actually beat Snorlax because, well, Earthquake does no sort of damage. And if you're not going to have a setup move, well, yeah, Lax is just going to set up. He rests all the way back to full. Daniel goes for his Fire Blast. I think maybe even try to catch Klefki. Or actually, no, probably more like try to catch Croak there, yeah. And sadly, Sludge Bomb does not even do enough to two-shot. Of course, the Body Slam was enough, and at this point, the game has been won by Eternally. We will just see the last few turns play out. Goes for a Terra Fairy and then like shrinks in size too. I don't know what just happened there. He goes for his Terra Fairy just to make sure Brute can never break him. Danny wins this battle, and thankfully, or not Danny wins, Eternally does. And thankfully, despite them going to a tiebreaker with the Islanders, the Gibbles did win SCL. Eternally finishes off his incredibly strong season by getting a trophy. So massive congratulations to Eternally. Hey, and I know Danny's going to get his trophy one day. He's going to get his ribbon, his trophies. Brother is incredibly talented, so do not fear. He's going to get his. He might even get multiple. What's you going to stop with Danny Smash? But I hope y'all enjoyed. It was fun to do these SCL videos. It just kind of sucks that what happened with the replays thing, because it definitely disrupted the flow. It made me not really care about this. So I don't know what I'm going to do at week 9. I might just upload that for members. Just be like, hey, you know what? Here's some extra content. Good bit for me, though. Or, like I said at the beginning, leave a like if you didn't like this. Subscribe if you know, haven't subscribed yet. You watched almost 22 minutes of me talk about Pokemon. You gotta be enjoying it. Just go down and hit that little button. Hope y'all enjoyed, though. I'll catch you tomorrow's video. Peace.